Jimmy Lakey on the radio. I got my coffee and cream. Jimmy's on the air. Wake up and start your day. Now go and tell all the neighbors, yeah. Then crank up the radio. There's infotainment, brilliance to get you on your way. Wake up and start your day with Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. Nice to have you here. The choir is here on a Monday. Everybody's back to work today, back to the work, the grindstone, doing your thing. That's the day the Lord has made, the 7th day of July, year of our Lord, 2025. Good to have you here on the program this morning. Action-packed show. Running into a few Instagram problems this morning, thus the delay. So I gave up on the IG, and we launched it just with you. So if you're on the Rumble this morning, say hi-de-ho. How are you, Rumble? Good to have you here on the program. YouTubers are checking in from across the globe. Glad to have you on the tube that starts with a U, and all the Facebook pages. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Facebook.com, The Media Equalizer. Facebook.com/Red Wave America. Thousands of earballs by the end of the day will hear this show, watch this show, see this show. And we're glad that you are part of it, watching it live this morning. Good to have you. It's Monday, back to work, 3-day weekend. Do you prefer to take the summer vacation? Do you take it the week leading into the 4th of July holiday, Independence Day holiday, or do you take it afterwards? So either way, you get the free day. But I do know some people that do it both ways. In the radio industry, I always knew people that would take off leading up. You would not see them from late June until after the 4th of July. And then I knew other people that you would not see them sometime around the 2nd or 3rd of July into mid-July to take some of that summer holiday vacation time. So if you're on vacation watching the show, good for you. You're probably bored with the people you're with anyway. And so here we are. Our Loa's here. She just checked in. Look at the screen. Look at your screen. Everyone, look at your screen. I'm here. Survived Independence Day. Well, I hope you survived Independence Day. You should survive Independence Day. It's a good day to survive. Rich Long is, or Loa checks in from Texas. Rich is out there in Missouri land. Hello, the land of misery. I'm in Missouri. How are you? Good to have you. I sent my son back to Missouri yesterday, back to play some college football. A little summer practice for him and summer workout. So he's back. He's out of the. My son was home for about a week, and I said, "Go back to the airport." No, it's always great to have my son home. It'd be good to have all of you here on the program as you're tuning in, and people's notifications are popping up to join the show. People join us throughout the course of the morning. For those of you who are here early, that's gold star on the poster board for you. You did very, very good. All right, we got a lot of great guests on the program this morning. In just a second, from the great motherland of Texas, Chuck Andrews is going to be with us talking about the devastation in Kerr County, Kerrville, Texas, the beautiful hill country. Those of us from Texas know how glorious and beautiful the hill country is. I was trying to explain to a friend, I was reading some news stories about several of these campgrounds that had been affected, not just for vacationers and RVs, but religious and or summer camps for kids. And that area is chock full of them. And I know this from growing up there, down in the hill country, back into East Texas, where you have the Piney Woods. A lot of the summer camps are happening. But right there on the Guadalupe is just beautiful territory, beautiful land. Probably the most, arguably, some people like the desert and the plains and the sand. But just probably a lot of folks would agree that this is the most beautiful part of Texas. It's an amazing place. And that river rising was just scary. I watched several time-lapse photos, and I say, good Lord in heaven, it's a miracle. Over 80 dead right now. Some are still missing. As of yesterday, they found people at tops of trees, have climbed up trees and been waiting for a rescue. The devastation is unfathomable, and so it's horrible, just absolutely awful. And as a guy that has sent my son to summer camp every year when he was in middle school and high school, he always went to a summer camp of some sorts, football camps, he went to church camps. We did it all. You can't imagine the pain of knowing you sent your kid off for a summer camp and they're not coming home. I talked to Jeff Hayes. You remember Jeff Hayes? Anybody remember Jeff? Jeff was the former chairperson of the Colorado GOP, and he was a regular contributor to the radio show. And I was talking to Jeff yesterday. I texted him. He's moved down to the hill country of Texas. And just before I got the old boot from the iHeart Kingdom, Jeff and I were talking about him starting to come back on the program once again. He took some time off because of his professional life, didn't know if he should be commenting on politics all the time, but he missed it too much and he wanted to come back on. And I reached out to Jeff, who lives near Lake Travis. Now, all that water from the Guadalupe heads down to the Austin area. A lot of it lands right there in Lake Travis, and Lake Travis has been low. Jeff moved right near Lake Travis a couple of years ago, and I remember him sending me photos of how low Lake Travis had been, and you could just kind of tell there's some markers there that you could tell. And he said yesterday that the thing's filling up. Let me read to you what Jeff told me yesterday. So some of you go back in years with a relationship with Jeff being on the radio. Colorado folks, you may remember him as the former chairperson of the GOP. I just checked in on him, and he said, thanks for checking in. We're good. Lots of rain. But we are high up and our lake is filling back up. So they're in higher ground. But he says, however, this is from Jeff Hayes. A lot of you know him, years on my radio show with me. My brother's grandkids were at Camp Mystic and came home just last week. So a near miss for that part of the family. He tells where the camp's at. He says, my sister's daughter is a counselor at a camp called Heart of the Hills. They were between sessions and just happened to be away with a friend, but that is a camp that was also destroyed, and the owner died looking for counselors that were not there. So Jeff Hayes said we dodged some bullets in the Hayes family this past weekend in that area. So our prayers definitely go out. I know that offends the liberal community out there. We're going to give prayers and thoughts to the people in Kerrville, people in Texas, and the devastation that's happening there. And fascinating, it's unbelievable. Of all my years in Texas, you remember every so often you get a little flood here. Flash floods can happen anywhere. I was reading that I think the last time the Guadalupe got really like this was like 1987. I don't have that right in front of me, but that's what I read. And before, it's like every 20 or 30 years. But what happened over the weekend? And also because it happened in the middle of the night, the dead of night, and it happened so fast, it's just devastating. And a weather system, tropical moisture came in. Anyway, if you've got a story from Texas, feel free. We're going to talk to Chuck Andrews, who's in Texas right now. We'll talk to him in just a moment, and that's where he lives, and he'll be on the program in a second. First of all, let's digress here and go to something very positive. Betsy, I see her in the chat room commenting on one of the Facebook pages. Betsy says, you were my favorite radio host, and I listened to you on my morning commute to DIA. Betsy, you have the best taste of better taste than most women. I mean, there's other ladies out there like Arloa. She's got great taste as well. It's me. But Betsy, thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm glad you found me on the web. I've been away for, how long have I been? I got poop can kicked to the curb by the iHeart Kingdom and corporate radio, 8 months ago? It was November, so 8 months ago I got kicked to the curb. And, oh, by the way, Roger says, good morning from the wolf-infested high country ranch lands of Colorado. Well, good morning to you, sir, from the land down here, the flatlands where there are no wolves. So, Scott checks in from Laramie, Wyoming. Hello, Laramie. How are you doing? Laramie's very flat. Very, very flat. I don't know why I thought of that. I just did. 9 months ago, I got kicked out of the iHeart Kingdom. And in getting kicked out of the iHeart Kingdom, I still have people. I got a message last week that said, Jimmy, I wish I could still hear you. And what's funny is they are commenting a lot of times on Facebook or Twitter. And I'm like, don't you see in the feed that there's a live show every day? And there's people that don't know that we're doing this. So spread the word, spread the love, and we're still doing it. Lisa jumps in. Oh, I love the flattery. This is so great. I agree with Betsy. I listened to you on the local AM station for 10 plus years on my commute back and forth to work. So glad you're back, Jimmy. Lisa, I really never left. It just took a while. It took a while for people to get see this. I got kicked to the curb in November, and by December, producer Chad and I were propping up this idea called Lakey Unleashed. So anyway, good to have all of you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Stacy Miller Pratt checking in from Texas. Howdy, Stacy. I see your chat there on one of the Facebook feeds as well. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're staying safe, and I hope you're dry. I texted with my other friend who lives in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is down in that same general direction, and I asked him how he's doing. Has he dried out? Is he okay? Everything. Just checking in on all my friends in the area down there, and he was actually catching a plane to go to Spain. He's a wine connoisseur. What do you call that? He's a fancy wine guy. So he was going off to, I think, do Spanish wines. I don't know what he was doing, but he was at the airport. But he said all was well where he was at, but it was a very, very devastating as he was flying out. All right, a couple of other stories we'll get to here. We're talking about the flooding in Texas. Again, Chuck Andrews coming up here in a matter of moments from Texas, and he will dive into the topics of conversation with us, and we will figure out what's happening on the ground and what it looks like and the devastation that has occurred. You hear the Camp Mystic, you hear these campgrounds, and those are the most utmost of tragedy. But there's so many people. I was reading again another story. Chuck can probably comment this of an RV park, a campground that had a couple of dozen RVs and campers there. And when they went there after as they did search and rescue, all the campers are gone. I mean, they're like washed down. They're gone. They're washed away. Again, story after story coming out. And again, I'm only getting part of the news. I'm only reading part of the news. I'm not in Texas. So we will talk about that with Chuck here in just a moment. The one big beautiful bill got signed. Anybody watch the signing ceremony with Donald J. Trump? He had the signing ceremony. He was very happy to have the one big beautiful bill. And you know what? I heard this and I said, this is hyperbole. Then I asked around and I heard it's true that one of the things that got it passed and made the Republicans so happy. There was a little division on the Republican side that this was not going to be the Roger says a sommelier is a fancy wine person. Thank you, Roger. I don't drink wine. So how would I know this? Wine makes me sleepy. If I drink wine, if I had some wine right now, I would be asleep in the next sentence. I mean, I'd be out. I'm out. I don't do wine. So, all right, we're back to being distracted by the chat room over here. Trump signs the big, beautiful bill. And I heard this is an actual true story that a lot of Republicans were kind of iffy and not happy. But when Hakeem Jeffries went on the floor and did his little, what we call the filibuster, I think it's called a filibuster in the Senate. I guess it's called the same in the House. A lot of Republicans said, screw it, I'm voting yes. This guy's an idiot. And by the way, I don't know if you've seen this. And I have a graphic for it. Well, later on, I didn't put it up for today. But Hakeem Jeffries, just a couple of years ago, 2021. Let me read Hakeem Jeffries' quote. This is just one of them. This is where I go back to my quote, and I want to get to my guest next. But I want to tell you that I say if the Democrats had no standard, didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. Remember that? We say that often on the show. In 2021, the esteemed lying Sacagawea, Hakeem Jeffries said, the filibuster is racially tinged artifact of the Jim Crow era. We cannot stand for it. Let it stand in the way of progress. So Hakeem Jeffries said, if you're filibustering, you must be an old honky cracker white guy, and you're part of the Jim Crow era, and the filibuster is racist. 2025, fast forward, the double standard Sacagawea that Hakeem Jeffries is. And I say Sacagawea, not to defame the Native Americans, but it's better, nicer, and more polite and more easy on our lowest ears in Texas, rather than call him a sack of shit stuff. You know what I'm saying? So Hakeem Jeffries, Sacagawea. You ready for this? He just broke the record for the longest filibuster speech in the U.S. House of Representatives, 8 hours and 33 minutes. So evidently, the Jim Crow era Hakeem Jeffries is a bigot. He's a Civil War era, Jim Crow era bigot. Did you know that about Hakeem Jeffries? Again, say it with me, kids. Here's your homework. Always remember this. If the Democrats and modern-day libtards did not have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. I love the opining. Somebody says, I miss your 3-hour shifts on the radio, though. Then says 4 hours, 6 to 10. I know math is hard. A lot of you went to public schools. Yeah, 4 hours. What did I always say on the radio? Mere mortals did 3-hour shows, 2-hour throws. I did that. I did 4 hours. You know why? I worked cheap. That's why I was overworked. I worked cheap. They gave me 4 hours because they could still afford it. They couldn't afford the big guys for more than 3 hours. But me, I work cheap. And these other guys that like have co-hosts, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton, come on. That's an hour and a half each. Anybody listen to that show still? I don't even know. All right, good to have all of you here. Let me go to my guest, Chuck Andrews. Works in the law enforcement, sheriff's departments down in the Texas area, but he's also a security expert, guru when it comes to the cybersecurity. And I want to bring him into the conversation. He's got a great book called I'll let him talk. The Security Influencers Guide to success using strategy, intelligence, and relationships. It's called Yes, Sir. His name is Chuck Andrews. He joins me in the studio now from the motherland, from the great state of Texas. Chuck, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Jimmy. How are you?
I am very well. Geographically, you are not in technically the hill country. You're more in the Houston area, but that's still not far away.
Yeah, so our ranch is just we missed the flood by a couple of miles. We're going to get into that, but I'm on the Gulf Coast of Texas, south of Houston. That's where we spend most of our time.
You've got a ranch in that Kerrville Hill Country area. It's a beautiful place. And talk about that Guadalupe. I remember, a couple of times you'd hear of a flooding. Every couple of decades you hear of a big flood. Nothing like this. It's normally, there's some places you can do the rapids on the Guadalupe. It's just a fun river if it has some good water in it. Talk about the Guadalupe. This was not, it's unusual for this to happen.
Yeah, very unusual to happen. You were talking about the camps, right? Now, these camps, like you said, have been around for a long, long time. And like Camp Mystic, this is the one that you're hearing about, 750 kids. That camp has been around since 1926. The other camps, there's about 15 more of them, mid-1900s, 1970, 1951. So this is a lot of Texas cultural history. Just about every Texas kid has gone to a camp. Guadalupe has been something my family has been enjoying since the 1960s in different parts of it, stretching across Texas. And in this area, you can walk across some of it. Some of it you can float. It's this crystal clear water coming out of aquifers and streams from all over Texas, feeding. And it goes right through downtown Kerrville, Texas.
It goes right through, and it is beautiful in the hill country. I was trying to explain those camps to my friends, and I said, listen, you can drive down the street. There's church camps, there's non-church camps, there's camps for boys, there's camps for girls. The Methodists have a camp, the Baptists have a camp. Everybody's got a camp in that area. Part of the reason it's not just beautiful, but it's also a little bit cooler. You don't want to be in West Texas for a summer camp if you can avoid it. It's just a great summer getaway in the state of Texas. Now, you have a ranch in that area. What was the weather like? Obviously, there were some rain showers. I heard that San Angelo was upstream, and they got a lot of water, and a lot of that started trickling down as well. Were you under flash flood warnings for days, weeks, hours? When did you find out the flood problem?
So actually, the National Weather Service issued a flood watch on July 3rd around 1:15 p.m. So we're talking a whole day before. But you got to remember, Jimmy, this is just a part of life, and spending a big part of my life in your neck of the woods in Colorado, flash flood, right, coming down Boulder Creek or Clear Creek Canyon or the St. Vrain. Literally, you can just get out of your car and walk straight up the hill. You can't do that. The Guadalupe could be 100, 200 yards wide before you even start to ascend any elevation for safety. But yeah, this flood watch but these happen all the time. In this part of the country, dry creek beds, this is just a part of life. You hear it all the time. It's very much normalized.
So the flood, the warning that hit, I guess, 45 minutes the national before the tragedy there in Kerrville, about 45 minutes when the water started rising. That's when the warning went out by the National Weather Service. I'm guessing a lot of people get their text alerts, but it was the middle of the night. If you're at a campground, you don't have your cell phone there. And so have you talked to people that got the alert? I mean, because I get alerts on my phone all the time, honestly, and I ignore them. Because you just get so many alerts. And did you get that alert in the middle of the night?
So, yeah, because we have a ranch there, we get the alerts, but unless your phone is set to literally wake you up, and remember, everybody's sleeping, so it's probably on silent mode or vibrate mode. These are the realities of what unfolded here in the wee hours of the morning when this happened. So already had a flood watch issued on July 3rd at 1:15. And on July 4th at approximately 4 a.m., 10 inches of rain, and now it was a flash flood emergency. The problem is all this unfolded somewhere between 45 minutes and 90 minutes. Literally, people were woken up by water, or their cabin was moving and floating, or the debris in the water was so high it was breaking out windows. I've heard lots of different stories.
Tell us some of those stories. First of all, let's get back to that rain. You mentioned 10 inches. The river rose in like a 45-minute window. Can you paint a picture? Give us an example. How much rain, how much water, how high did that river rise, and how quickly did it go? Give us a perspective, because I've watched some time lapse and it's devastating, but I'm sure you have probably a better comparison.
Yeah, so the river rose 30 feet in under 90 minutes at 4 in the morning. So let's give that some a little bit of perspective, right? So what we're talking about is enough water, and depending on who you ask, it's either 100 billion, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, or 3 trillion gallons. That's a foot of water spread across the entire state of Texas from perspective, right? Mass amounts of water. And because, with the exception of the Guadalupe and some of the North Fork and the South Fork and some of these streams, all fed by aquifers, you have thousands of dry creek beds, and they fill with water, and it all rushes in that area of the country to the Guadalupe. So that's exactly what you had, is basically a Harvey sitting over that particular area and deluging all those beds, including the Guadalupe, and then this big wall of water works its way down. And everybody was asleep when this happened, unfortunately. And, you're talking about, we talk about sleep, you talk about REM, right? Deep sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. And by the time, I suspect, these people and the kids that were at these camps, it was water that actually woke them up. And then rescue efforts began immediately when that happened.
I want to talk about your loss, your ranch, your daughter's business. I want to get to that, but I've heard stories of you mentioned cabins, literally cabins picking up and lifting downstream. I've heard of entire RV parks where people were camping for the long weekend. RVs, Winnebagos, motorhomes just gone, floating down the street. Heard this story of one lady who actually survived, and she was found holding onto a tree, but she was found on a tree 20 miles down the stream. Talk about some of these stories that we're seeing on the news, but you're probably hearing them firsthand, of the devastation. RVs, cabins moving, people floating 20 miles downstream and somehow surviving.
So yeah, my daughter's there. Hunt is probably a population of 500 people. Hunt, Texas. This is the center of the damage, as well as Kerrville and Comfort. Those are the three biggest areas. I'm sad this morning. Again, this has been devastating. I think we're up to 82 people in the last hour, of which the majority of those are adults. 40 to 42 people are adults, and the rest are children. It's really tough, Jimmy. To have water rise 22 feet in 2 hours, peaking at 29 feet. And in Kerrville, right, they went from 2 feet to 34 feet between 5:15 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. So literally over 30 feet for 1.5 hours, and the damage that went with that. That RV park you're talking about, there were 24 RVs on cement pads backed up to the Guadalupe River. I've been to that RV camp at least once in my life, and I pass it all the time going to my ranch, because literally we follow the Guadalupe, and all those people woke up to being swept away. That's the reality of the situation. It's extremely, extremely sad. There are lots of families mourning, and we need to keep them prayed up.
Yeah. I even heard this morning Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, was on television, said he had just last week picked up his daughter from one of the camps. He'd been going there since she was a little girl. The camp, and even Ted Cruz had a daughter at a camp there just down the street from Mystic. Let me ask a question here about your daughter's business. What was your daughter's business, and what was the devastation?
So my daughter's business is literally downtown, right next to the Hunt store. And you'll see that the Hunt post office next to the Hunt store. Very famous venue. Some of the best barbecue in the world. You can get anything that you need there. This has been there for decades and scores. The post office physically gone. Matter of fact, she sent me a picture yesterday of some of their boxes that you go in with your key to check, laying outside their business out in front. Right? It's just the devastation. So her business was completely wiped out. Literally, her inventory floated she told me yesterday that she walked 10 miles in the base of the Guadalupe River and the surrounding area trying to find their inventory and collect it. One of the things that I did tell her in coaching her and her fiance, back of it is this beautiful piece of property. I think it's been around for 5 generations, and they had to be rescued out of their home, but literally the looters showed up, and I told her you need to be prepared for that. And sure enough, yesterday morning, the first thing, looters showed up, and they had to deal with that, and they were able to deal with it. But one person wouldn't leave. But there's 400 Texas law enforcement there from Texas DPS and 1,500 members of the Texas National Guard. So that problem was taken care of very quickly.
Producer Chad saw this on one of your social media feeds. I guess your daughter put this sign up. Please no trespassing. We are tech-savvy millennials. Dad is a cybersecurity guy. Don't mess with Texas here. You do what you got to do. I would think if you're going to go loot somewhere, you might want to loot in Boston or somewhere. I'm thinking Texas not a good place to loot. I'm thinking it's hard to believe they show up in Hunt, Texas, a population 500 to loot, and don't expect to.
Yeah, listen.
Those looters. I would warn you, if you're a looter heading to Texas, you might not want to, because you might have a more enjoyable time in the prison shower than you would looting in many parts of Texas. You don't do that. Chuck, the devastation is I'm guessing your ranch okay?
Yeah, we missed, a catastrophe by a few miles. Literally, we were on the fringe of the weather. The way the weather pattern was working, we were just lucky and very fortunate, right, that we didn't suffer this. Remember that, the damage is from the Guadalupe River and all the feeds, and then this system moved right to Austin and Burnett County and all that area, and then it moved back south. All that water flows from the north to the south, into the east as well. And because Texas is kind of sideways like this, right, left to right, and the San Bernard, and all this water will eventually end up where I'm at in my county, Brazoria County, on the Texas Gulf Coast. The Brazoria and the San Bernard and the Colorado all coming out into the Gulf of Mexico. So now levels are starting to rise. But a really interesting point. So the big feed of the Guadalupe is first in Canyon Lake, and it's down 26 feet. There's like 800 acres. You can drive a truck in this lake because we've not had any rain. And I think it's risen some of all this water. And eventually it'll open up and people will eventually get back on the Guadalupe. It's shut down right now for obvious reasons.
My friend who lives on Lake Travis says it's starting to fill back up as well. He said that would have been quite empty since he moved down there a few years ago. What's the rescue operation that you're hearing? Are they still saying they're at search and rescue, or have they just moved it to recovery? I mean, what are we at?
We're full recovery mode now. 850 people have been rescued. You've got the Coast Guard here, the Cajun Navy here, right? Everybody and everything is deployed. No place like the great state of Texas. If you're going to be in a catastrophe, this is the place to be. Our governor and leadership showed up the same day and got together and started deploying all resources. And as you can see, FEMA followed after the fact. And then POTUS also came in within 24 hours and offered up any assistance as well. But the state of Texas already had it covered, let me tell you. So the response has been unbelievable to, in relative to anywhere else in the country. You're not going to see any place other than Texas respond in the manner and in the spirit of Texas where we get things done.
I have heard, obviously, you have the camps, you have 750 girls at Camp Mystic, and they have a roster of who's there. You have the local residents, people that kind of know where their neighbors at.
Yes.
I'm hearing that as of yesterday, I heard that what they didn't have a grip on, maybe they do now, is people that were just camping. They hadn't checked in anywhere. They were just camping. There may be missing people in this death toll that aren't even accounted for because no one knows they were there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jimmy. There's going to be people who camp on there. And listen, like any community, you have a vagrant population with zero accountability. There'll be people recovered that never identified or never recovered, right? Sadly enough in these situations. So these numbers, unfortunately, are going to rise. I don't think they're going to rise much. I think given the amount of resources, my daughter was telling me, Dad, I counted 60 helicopters yesterday, 60 over the 40-mile stretch of this devastation. So the response here is unprecedented, as it should be, because it's the Texas.
The rebuilding, will your daughter be able to rebuild? What are you hearing? I mean, I know it's early, but are people going to be able to recover from this?
You know, this is Texas, not only than ever, right? We're talking about a culture of resilience. We are Texans. And you see, if you go down there, it's really tough to talk about, Jimmy. If you go down there and you see how people are working together, it speaks volumes about being friendly, Tejas, right? The friendliest state. And this shows true when events like this unfold and we all come together. When you break a piece of metal and you weld it back, it comes back stronger than its original integrity that it came with. And that's what's happening right now. We will come back Texas strong.
Chuck Andrews, I appreciate it. You're a cybersecurity guru. Give a little self-promotion, sir. Pat yourself on the hind end and say good boy.
Yeah, listen, I want to point people in the direction, Jimmy, and I sent it to you to donate, right? Even $1. And listen, if you can't donate, then just send a prayer, right, to families and first responders and people affected by this. But if people are willing to, donate, that will go a long ways to helping out there. Yes, I wrote a book called Yes, Sir, SIR Strategy, Intelligence, and Relationship. It's a pre and post bestseller on Amazon, and how you too can become an influencer in the security industry and make yourself better at what you do. I'm going to be donating all the money of the books that people buy. You can just go to Amazon, type in Yes, Sir, Chuck Andrews. It'll pop up. It's like $19. I'm going to donate all those sales to the relief effort as part of this as well.
And I do see your email that came in just right as looks like right as the show was getting going. I'll put this up on social media, but is there an easy way to tell people, they can go buy your book? That's a quick way to donate.
Yeah, absolutely. If they'd like to, it's real simple. Just go to Amazon, type in Yes, Sir, Chuck Andrews, and the book will pop up. And you can't miss it. It's The Great State of Texas with my face on it, with Friends of Chuck.
Friends of Chuck. I like it. Hey, Chuck, I appreciate the time, man, friend. God bless you, your family. God bless Texas. And thoughts and prayers, my friends. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Be well.
You got it, my friend. Chuck Andrews, again, look up Yes, Sir, and all the proceeds from his book are going to be donated to the relief funds there in Kerrville. And if you want to know, you say people want to donate, they want to give, but they don't know who to give to, which organization. If you will give me till the end of the show, I have an email here, a long URL that I will put up in just a moment. I'll put up that URL, and you can donate directly to the Hill Country of Texas. Chuck Andrews, thanks for jumping in. Glad your ranch is okay. Sorry about your daughter's business, but as you said, in the spirit of Texas, they will rebuild. Indeed, they shall. All right, good morning to all of you. Jimmy Lakey is my name. Glad to have you here on the live stream. If you're listening later in the day on the podcast version of the show, thanks for listening on the podcast. By the end of the day, and by the end of the week, thousands of earballs will hear this show or see this show, and we appreciate you hopping in. And again, if you want to find out, I'll link up the link that Chuck Andrews just sent me. I'll put it up on my Facebook and my Twitter feed, my X feed, and all those things. I'll do it after this program, and you can find me facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. If you're on the X machine, you just type in my name, Jimmy Lakey, and all those other platforms. YouTube, you can find it. I'll get on all the platforms as soon as the show's over. Chuck just sent me the link that he thinks is the best one to donate to help the rescue efforts and the recovery efforts now in the Hill Country of Texas, Kerrville. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to switch gears here, talk Elon Musk in just a moment. But many of you remember from my radio days, Jeff Hayes was a regular contributor on my show for years. He used to be he was the chairman of the former chairman of the Colorado GOP. And I'll just give you his tale of what happened there in the Hill Country, as he has moved from Colorado, no longer the chairman of the Colorado GOP, and living in Texas. He's fine. He lives near the shores of Lake Travis, and he's glad to see the lake is actually filling back up. And you heard Chuck Andrews talking about other lakes that have been low. They had a drought condition for many years. But Jeff Hayes, who many of you remember from my live radio days, said, quote, "My brother's grandkids were at Camp Mystic and came home just last week." They went home. That's the one where the 20-plus kids are missing. You've heard that story, Camp Mystic. So Jeff Hayes, his brother's grandkids were there, but actually left the camp last week. My sister's daughter, so this would be Jeff's niece, is a counselor at a camp called Heart of the Hills. They were between sessions, and she just happened to be away with a friend, but that entire campground is destroyed. And the owner of that campground, we keep hearing about Camp Mystic, the owner of that campground, Heart of the Hills, died looking for the counselors. And if you heard the founder of Camp Mystic, I think it's been operating since 1926, the founder also died. He floated down the river, evidently 4 miles down, with several girls, and rescued them, got him out of the water. And I guess some kind of I don't know if he was just devastated from the float, whatever, but he died after the fact, but the girls were rescued. So the guy that directed that camp, his family still runs it. He died a hero indeed as well. All right, I'll put the link up here in just a bit to donate if you want to donate to the Hill Country of Texas. It's also, if you can see, it's on the screen. It's a big long URL. Chuck has posted it there there. You can see Chuck has posted that. It's right. Everybody memorize that right now. Everybody memorize. I'll put it up on the social media feed in just a moment. Maybe producer Chad. I think producer Chad's on my. I don't know who has access to my Facebook page. I think everybody does. I think even Jesus can access my Facebook page. Dave says, "Thank you, Chuck. I think all of the kids grew up in Texas have gone to one of those camps." So, yeah, but if I was trying to explain this yesterday to my friends, that they're like, "That was their camp? Is that unusual?" No, that's the camping area for church camps, and you can go down the road, you find every 7 seasons, 7 flavors of denominations, the non-denoms, the everybody's got a camp down there in Guadalupe. There's other camps throughout the state, but that is a great camping place. And when you're trying to escape the Texas heat, it's brutal. But believe me, as a native son of Texas, the Hill Country is where you go. It's just beautiful area there, and it's gorgeous. It really is. And those campgrounds were just amazing. Part of Texas heritage, indeed. And again, you heard some of these have been operating in that area since the 1920s, 1950s. It is a tradition. Texas has its own culture. If you haven't figured us out, we have our own little culture, and that's part of the culture of Texas, is that the summer camping, and the Guadalupe area, the Hill Country, is part of that. All right, good to have you here on the show. I'll put the link up. I promise you to donate for the Hill Country. I'll put that up on social media in just a bit. We will get that out there in a moment. As a matter of fact, in light of the Hill Country things and helping Chuck out and the folks down there, I'm not going to, later this week, we'll pick back up programming note: let's not run the sweepstakes. We're giving away a 2025 Bronco Raptor on behalf of our charity. We're not going to run that today, and I'm not going to introduce our desk program. We got to stock a classroom with desk. That we're going to do later in the week. I'll get to that. I want you to give to the folks of Texas if possible, and I'll get the link out on social media here momentarily. All right, we want to switch gears, shall we? All right, we'll switch gears here in just a moment. My name is Jimmy. Nice to have you here. Don't forget, if you want to be a part of the program at any time, feel free to just comment on all the platforms you're on. And if you're listening later in the day on the podcast edition, glad to have you listening. Always, you can watch live. People join in and out live. Some people go back and watch it. And again, by the end of the day, thousands of ear holes will hear this program and or see this program. And we're glad that you do it. Thousands of you will pay attention to us by the end of the day. And the message of Chuck Andrews and the Hill Country of Texas will get out there as well. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, feel free to send us an email, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. For those of you in Colorado, I want to remind you about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. A great realtor and I don't want to say different because sometimes you think that's bad or weird. She approaches real estate from a different perspective. And here's what she does. She goes in, when you call her up, you're going to get to know each other, have coffee, telephone conversation, whatever you're going to do. You're going to get to know each other. And she's approaching this that she's really, I want to say, applying for a job. She wants to be your realtor for life. She wants to be the one that you buy your starter home with, and then 4, 5, 6 years later, you need a couple of bedrooms, an extra car, an outbuilding. She wants to be the one you call, and you use her services. She wants to be your realtor for life. She's working towards that. She's not just hoping that you're going to put a sign in your yard and have an open house and she's going to get a quick close. She wants to earn your trust to become your realtor for life. She knows that real estate, when played correctly, can create generational wealth for you, your family, your kids, your grandkids. It's a way to pass something down. It's just an amazing thing, creating generational wealth. She approaches it that way. And by the way, if she just is such a generous lady. She's been to Africa with us, seen our school there, Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda, and she takes when you close a home with her or do a transaction, she takes a cut in her commissions and donates 10% to any charity of your choice. She also, my friends, I'll tell you this, if you're a veteran first responder, somebody, an active duty person, she takes a less commission just so you can have a better opportunity to get a home. Why don't you go to her website, homeswithsherry.com. Again, Colorado, if you're on I-25, the corridor from Denver to Fort Collins, down South Denver, Littleton, Aurora, Park Meadows area, you get it, Boulder to Broomfield. And by the way, she said on the program last week, if she's not good at that area, she's happy to offer you a referral to someone that is like her and can take care of you with the integrity that she does. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And make sure, I've been joking, she can make, if you move to Aurora, she can make sure you don't live next to Trenday Aragua. Just letting you know, she can do that. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dennis Neal, many of you remember the long form interview he and I did that's up on the podcast pages now. He's written a book about Elon Musk. You might remember the name and the face from the glorious days at CNN and also a little stint at Fox Business. He's in the green room. We bring Mr. Dennis Neal into the program. Dennis, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Hello, Jimmy. It's a glorious day here in Brooklyn, and I'm so happy to be talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for hopping on the program. We're talking about the floods in Texas, but I want to switch gears here. You're kind of an expert on Elon, so I just want to backtrack. Over the weekend, Donald Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, and Elon went down to the county courthouse and filed papers to form the America Party. Not sure what kind of traction is going on. But let's back up. What happened with Elon Musk? Is it the green new tax credits that got cut?
That's a cheap shot by the president, and it's not really that have to do with the tax cuts at all. And he has said over the last 5 years, at least 3 separate times publicly, including even more recently, that, finally, sure, eliminate the tax credits. It would only strengthen Tesla's hold on the EV market. It has roughly a 60% share in the U.S. And if you take away the tax incentive that helps lesser quality EVs sell, suddenly the best made EV car will rise ascendant and become even more dominant. And, the Model Y Tesla is the best selling model of any kind of car, gas combustion or EV in the world. I'm shocked that they've done this in a matter of 10 years, supplanting Mercedes-Benz and BMW and brands that have been around for decades and decades. And here comes Tesla out of nowhere. Now, what happened here, though? They had such a beautiful friendship. Wasn't it so great to see? To see little X frolicking with Grandpa President Trump, to see kind of Musk learning about the way politics work from Trump, and Trump just learning about the brilliant mind of Elon Musk. And yet the media, the Democrats, they were goading them, right? They kept saying, well, he's the unofficial president, Musk is, and all of this is trying to make him fight. And finally it happened. And it's kind of nice that it happened over something big, something real, a true real issue, a difference in policy. Elon coming at this, what's happened to him now, Jimmy? I mean, he's out of line. Elon's wrong. The president's right. And Elon is coming at this and reacting in pain and hurt and feeling disrespected and disregarded and feeling disgusted with government. And he has almost a childlike understanding of government. And whereas Trump needs to get this deal done, otherwise 80% of Americans would face a tax increase. He wants to get new tax cuts in for Social Security and tips, all these good things. And if you have to abide a bad thing to get a good thing overall done, you do that in Washington. That's just the way it works. And then you try to fix the bad stuff later. Elon, though, is saying, I managed to cut $1.75 trillion over 10 years in government spending. No one's done that in 30 years, I don't believe. And you guys just wipe that out with a bill that the Congressional Budget Office says will add 2.3 trillion, and some say even more, 3 trillion or more, to the debt, the national debt, after 10 years. How could you wipe away all that I've done? When I experienced death threats, when my own personal wealth dropped by over $100 billion at one point, when Tesla shares were battered by my support of President Trump. So he's hurting here. And the nice thing was that at first, Trump in the first go-round, even after Elon said some very inappropriate, personal, insulting things that he deleted, Trump said, you know what? I'm worried about him. The guy's clearly got problems. Instead of Trump kind of ripping him apart the way the old Trump would have done, he actually had empathy and realized this guy's kind of coming at this from a hurt place. So now, though, Elon Musk, and by the way, the Journal reported today, the Wall Street Journal, said that he has not filed any papers with the Federal Election Commission. And by the way, I think that's almost a violation of the First Amendment, that a political party to get started in the U.S. supposedly has to file with the Federal Election Commission. The government hadn't thought about this before, but what is that? If I don't file with you, suddenly I can't organize a political party? That seems a little bit of a strange requirement, but he has not filed as yet. But it is the ultimate insult, isn't it, Jimmy, to his friend President Trump, because President Trump is coming in and galvanized the Republican Party. He's starting to fix what is broken. Yes, Republicans and Democrats feed at the same trough. Yes, it is a uniparty. Elon's right about that. But fix what is broke rather than throw it out and steal votes away so that the Democratic Party wins the next election.
I like Elon. I didn't know much about him until he partnered up with President Trump. And I've even thought, I said, I'm not in the market for a car, let alone an electric car. But if I was buying one, I'd buy a Tesla. I could see myself in a Cybertruck. Personally, my friends think I'm goofy, but I could do that. But I like it. Is there a part of Elon that is how much of this is ego? How big is his ego? Is his ego bigger than his intellect? Is his ego bigger than his common sense?
There's no way that his ego could be bigger than his intellect, because that guy is the smartest guy to come along in America in over 100 years, right? He's equal parts Edison, Einstein, Steve Jobs, and P.T. Barnum. And yeah, he's coming at this a lot, I think, from ego. His ego is really hurt because when he goes in to get something done, he gets it done. He took over Twitter. He cut 80% of staff in a matter of 2 to 4 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, platform hosts 140 billion impressions on the World Cup soccer tournament. And so he tried to do that in government, but it turns out it's not the same template. It doesn't work. You've got to go after entitlements and spending. Overall, though, I think Elon did a great job with Doge because it shined a light on stuff that's been going on for years and that Washington accepts as standard. Oh, yeah, that's the way it goes. But that we Americans found appalling and shocking. And I salute him for that. But now you don't create a party that steals votes from Republicans and hands elections to Democrats. And Elon owns this Grok AI engine, right? It's on X, and that company XAI even bought the X platform kind of from the other investors with Elon. All right, and this Grok was asked, hey, will this America Party steal more votes from Democrats and Republicans? And Grok says it's going to steal more votes away from Republicans and enhance the Democrats. Elon, this is not what you should be doing or focusing on. Please get back to business. I admire him greatly. I love the guy. I love both of these men. I've met Trump personally. I've had one email of the dozens I've sent him returned by Elon Musk declining to cooperate for the book. But then watching them fight, as I've said a few times by now, is like that bad Superman movie where Superman and Batman are fighting each other. When,
I hate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're listening later in the day, the podcast version, obviously, if you're watching it on the screen, you can see it's the author of The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, Dennis Neal, CNBC fame, Fox Business News as well, a stint there. The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Make sure you get a copy of that book. If you're only listening, I want to reset it because, again, by the end of the day, thousands of earballs will hear this and you're saying, who's that guy yapping besides Lakey? That's Dennis Neal. The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk is his latest book. I have a friend that floats a conspiracy, not a theory, not a conspiracy theory, but an actual theory. He thinks, listen, see what you think here. He thinks that maybe they're going to reunite, Peaches and Herb song, Reunited, It Feels So Good, down the road, because he thinks that the MAGA movement is going to need a place. My friend Joseph DeMott, who comments on the show a lot in our chat room, he thinks that the MAGA movement is going to need some place to land once Donald Trump is no longer the head of the Republican Party, and the country club class of the Republican Party take the thing back over down to it's not going to stay Trumpian, and that MAGA movement's going to need a home, and maybe it's going to be the America Party. That's his theory, that this is really setting up the continuation of the MAGA movement down the road.
Well, that's kind of interesting, and it's quite sophisticated. And I wonder if politics actually really is as sophisticated as that kind of analysis. But let's just break this down now. Well, first of all, Elon has said that the America Party will not be fielding a presidential candidate in 2028, right? That means he's leaving it for J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio to come in as his VP, which would be a very cool ticket, right? So that's one interesting thing. And another thing is, the MAGA movement. I think that Elon may have made the mistake of thinking that he is as popular as Trump is, that he's popular with MAGA. MAGA loves Elon because Elon supports Trump.
Yeah.
But once you start to betray the president, our guy, MAGA's not going to go with Elon Musk on that. And Elon will suddenly get a rude awakening for that. Now, the idea that MAGA leaves the Republican Party, MAGA now reshaped and utterly dominated that party. I mean, it doesn't know what hit it. Those insiders in Washington are still reeling from it. They're still praying it goes away when Trump goes away. But I don't think MAGA will leave the Republican Party without Trump if he has a good heir who hews to what Trump was saying. The late CNN and Fox anchor Lou Dobbs, a friend of mine, I helped him write The Trump Century. It came out in 2020. He was hoping it would help Trump win the election. And Lou argued in that book, though, that even if Trump lost in 2020, that the Trump effect will continue for decades to come, that everything is different because he was there. And you know what? Lou passed away, I think, 2 years ago now. And in this Trump term, it shows what Lou said is really coming true. Look at NATO, where the countries just said, okay, 5% of our GDP will go to our own defense. Trump was the first one to ever bring it up in the first term. And Washington said, that's so unsophisticated of him. It's always been like that. What are you doing? Look at how everything that happens now is either blamed on Trump or credited to Trump or is a response to Trump. When a liberal candidate wins someplace, this is a backlash against Trump. When a conservative candidate wins, this is because of the Trump wave. Everyone is dancing to Trump's tune, including even Elon Musk. Now, the way they will reconcile, right? You know why? Because of that old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
And because these two need each other, it's just that Elon should realize he needs Trump more than Trump needs him.
Yeah. Again, the voice of Dennis Neal. Latest book is called the Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. You ought to get a copy of it. The little chat rooms. Jeff comes in on the X platform and says Elon is enlightening us about the government's ways. He's definitely not a politician. Did Elon go to Washington, D.C., kind of like Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith goes to Washington?
That's so good. That's so good. And as brilliant as Elon is, I believe he has a kind of a naive belief that government will do the right thing when it's confronted with the right information, the right stats. You know, his first principles approach, which means boiling everything down to its most basic things and elements and figuring out what's needed. It's what he did with SpaceX. He decided a rocket ship, which is hugely expensive under NASA. You know, SpaceX has saved NASA up to $30 billion in launches and costs because he decided a rocket ship is nothing more than stainless steel and fuel. And then you start from there and you simplify as much as possible. It's one of the 11 lessons of Elon in my book. There's a lesson per chapter. And lesson 2 says, reduce, reduce, reduce. Elon cuts back on everything, everywhere. A Tesla has 10,000 moving parts. A Ford has 40,000. Everywhere except women and children, apparently.
He hasn't cut back on those at all. He's multiplied like bunny rabbits. That's what he's done.
I don't know why he doesn't just go to a bank and go ahead and bank that DNA and spread that impact into the hundreds rather than stopping at 14.
Well, he's still young. He's got time.
Yes,
he's got time. Dennis, let me ask you. I want to come back to Elon, push the book again, but you've covered news and the economy and presidents, and you've been on CNBC, Fox and the whole Fox business, etc. Have you ever seen a time in history where everybody seems to get it right? We were told that tariffs were going to be the end of the world, and the stock market, the S&P, are at records right now. We were told that Trump personally was going to tank the stock market. I mean, everything that they've said about Trump's the economists go out there and say, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. Evidently, we have a bunch of idiots as economists out there because Donald Trump's performing better than the economists. Have you ever seen anything like this?
You know, in 30 years of covering business and meeting billionaires and interviewing CEOs, I've never seen such an overwhelming consensus be wrong again and again. And it's because, more so I think than in the past, our views of the economy, our views of the stock market, all these pixel pundits and what they have to say, they're shaped and influenced by their hatred of Trump, by their political views of Trump. And that's how they keep missing out on it. That's how they keep getting it wrong. And you know, in the first term of Trump, when he announced those tariffs, the same proclamations of doom came out, and inflation stayed below 2% for all 4 years of that term. And when Biden came in, he wiped out everything Trumpy could, and he left those tariffs in place. So stop with the fear mongering. Stop with the Wall Street Journal came out with a column by the former editor of the paper that said he's doing, irreparable damage to the U.S. brand internationally, and it'll never be restored. What a bunch of malarkey. Come on. We've never been stronger. We've never been better. They said that if we dared to attack Iran's nuclear sites, that it would create World War III. Where is it? Iran has come to the table. I mean, the guy has been cited in like 3 or 4 different peace offerings, right? A leader from Congo, it used to be but it's not. It lost the like Ukraine did. Congo was crediting Trump with getting 2 parties that have been at war for 30 years for coming together and talking. Ukraine, Russia, they're at least talking. Hamas is at least saying, yes, please, ceasefire. My gosh, look at all the peace breaking out all over the place. Obama nominated and awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he was nominated before he even took office.
Before he even took office, yeah.
Simply for being a black guy who won the election. Way to go. And then Trump will never be awarded this Nobel Peace Prize because he's just too controversial. They hate him. But the great thing is, because lesson 11 of my 11 lessons of Elon says that the most likely outcome, Elon says, is the most ironic one, the most opposite of what you expected to happen. Everyone tried to stop Trump. Everyone doubts him. Everyone hates him. And Trump's like this superhero who just feeds off the negative energy and gets just bigger and more persuasive and more impressive. And, they can't stop him. The opposite outcome happens instead. He ends up succeeding and we end up winning. I've never seen a string of victories like this by one president in his first term in the first year or ever in any year, not even Reagan.
Yeah. Obama's Nobel was more like a participation trophy at that point. It's like, you participate, you kind of win that because he didn't do anything for that.
Right.
Okay, let's get back to the book. And again, it's called The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. It's by Dennis Neal. Dennis, obviously, we can't predict the future, but President Trump it seemed like they were genuinely close. I mean, they didn't need each other's money. They just seemed to have a friendship. Remember little X's, you said, frolicking down over towards the Marine One helicopter, and Dad's walking behind Grandpa Trump, and you saw Elon sitting on at the inauguration next to Barron. I mean, he broke bread with the family. It seems like he was almost a part of the family. Is there reconciliation? And what do we learn from the lessons of Elon that you put that where are we at? Where's this headed?
Yeah. I think these men genuinely like each other, admire each other. And by the way, that's part of what led to this kind of feud and these sparks, because there was personal animosity. I am sure that the president's advisors really resented Elon's closeness at a personal level, and the X stuff, and hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who was said to have had a physical confrontation with Elon and pushing and shoving back and forth, and who recently said, just this week, he said something like, Elon knows a lot about rocket ships, but leave the finances to me. I mean, it's a barb aimed at him. And, Scott Bessent isn't hanging out at Mar-a-Lago and going to parties with Trump. I think Trump looks at Elon and sees a brilliant mind. I think he's fascinated that someone who identifies himself as being on this spectrum of autism with Asperger's or something could be so incredibly brilliant and successful. And Trump being worth, 4 or 5 billion, I guess it is, versus Elon as high as 400 billion. Trump admires wealth and wealth creation. That is the whole drive of what capitalism is all about. And Elon exemplifies that, and Trump loves that. I think they can come back together. And don't you ever wonder, Jimmy, whether there's a WWE World Wrestling Entertainment component going on here, where some of this might be for the cameras? It certainly has restored some of Elon Musk's credibility, perhaps, among liberal customers, who are happy to see him bickering with the president and criticizing the big, beautiful bill. I mean, maybe there's some theater going on here, although maybe that's too cynical. What do you think?
I thought the same thing with it. First, when the breakup first happened, I was like, this is for the cameras. This is just Elon needs cover. His the stock prices are going down. He has a fiduciary responsibility to the people that he runs these companies for. He's going to head back and focus on the business and try to get a couple of degrees of separation. And maybe that's true. But then Elon's father came out and said Elon went back and he has PTSD from actually going to Washington. The guy was there for a couple of months and he has PTSD. Can you imagine the PTSD and trauma that these career politicians must have? That's a rough place.
The politicians, there's a study long ago, a famous study, the Rosen something study, that showed that it is all but impossible to diagnose sanity in an insane environment. They put these ringers in a mental hospital and wanted to see if the doctors could realize, oh, wait a minute, this person's okay. But no, because you're in that insane asylum and you view everyone as being crazy. Well, that's Washington. So that it was hard for Washington to identify the sanity of Elon Musk's Doge cuts and to embrace them. Even the Republicans were balking at it. And of course, it is because a lot of that money was round tripping and going back to Democrats and Republicans alike. They were feeding at the same trough. They just were. Yeah. And Elon, one of those lessons, lesson 4 says, tease your critics and torture your enemies. So Elon goes for blood when he disagrees. And that's how he went too far against Trump. Some say, gee, was he on ketamine at the time? And I guarantee you there's no way he could have been. I did some research on the drug. I talked to people who have taken it under prescription. And ketamine, basically you can barely rise off the couch. You're so beatific and so kind of contented and so kind of seeing life. So that wasn't what fueled all that anger when he started tweeting that bad stuff. That might have been whiskey, though. Whiskey can do it.
Just ask producer Chad about that. I know nothing about that, but my producer, I'm telling you, I'm kidding. Producer Chad and I have been known to enjoy our bourbons. So let's just say that. Dennis Neal, the name of the book again, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Is there anything that after you've written it and now, the last time you and I talked, they were at the height of this bromance, if you will.
Yeah.
And now we're at the kind of the fallout and they're going back and forth a little bit. I think President Trump over the weekend said Elon's a train wreck. Seems like he may be going through a bad part of life here, obviously. Is there any part of the book that you're like, wow, I was almost prophetic? This is even more true than I thought. Is there any part of the book that has surprised you as to how accurate you are?
Well, that's such a kind question, Jimmy, because I was sitting here bracing, waiting, like, is there any part of the book that you really regret saying now that this guy's turning out to be such a jerk toward the president? So I really feel like
that was my follow-up question. That's my follow-up.
I really feel like the 11 lessons that I came up with, and I'm dying to have Elon vet them. Well, at the same time, I will insist that Elon doesn't understand the lessons. He's inside the circle. You've got to be an observer from outside to get him right. And I do feel like so many of them were so good, so dead on target. That reduce. This was written before he went and took charge of Doge to cut the government, right? And this idea of lesson 6, free speech is everything. Stand up and be heard. Elon does that in spades, right? In lesson 7 on the media, they're to hell with them. They're shameless shills. Elon has showed companies that they can afford to not even comment back to the media and instead put your content on X, put out what you have to say on X, and the media will quote it from there. They'll ignore your press release if you send that to them, but they'll quote it on X because X is for real. And that lesson about lesson 9, I think it is, it's better to launch and burn than never to launch at all. Just the other day on a Saturday, I think it was, SpaceX Starship blew up on the platform during a fire testing, and the media always comes out and they razz him and why he failed again. But Elon knows that failure is a required step on the path to success, and that with each failure we learn hundreds of new things, sometimes thousands of new things to fix it for the next time. So you fix it as you go, and you just keep going while the plane's in midair. And that's what he does. So a lot of these lessons explain how his success, but I think we can use them to build our own better life.
Yeah. Dennis Neal, again, the leadership genius of Elon Musk. I'd highly recommend a copy of it. And Elon, if you happen to stumble across this podcast or the streamcast, whichever version you're going to get, or President Trump, you guys are better together. I like it when you're together. I like little X frolicking like John on the White House lawn. Please bring back those days. I'm sentimental for them. That's my advice. Ray, one more comment comes across. Elon doesn't realize that most politicians do things for votes and not truly to help out the citizens. Again, that's that Mr. Smith goes to Washington. He's like, I'm really going to help some people. We're probably not.
I think he was shocked at the cynicism of it all and the horse trading. And also the pork, just how much ridiculous pork there is, even after all of his efforts. But you know what? Let's look for the multiplier effect of Doge. He's got people in place. He's got these super smart young people who are going to be shining a spotlight. And then you can use the X platform to further spread the word on these spending abuses. I mean, the amount of unused software that they just kept paying for, the consultant contracts. And you're seeing now people, you know what bothers me? All of these ridiculous projections that hundreds of thousands of people will die because of these cuts. If in Africa, the governments haven't, after 30 years of U.S. aid, found a way to be self-sufficient, then they deserve to be thrown out. It's not our fault because we stopped funding, but also we now know that very little of that money was going to the final sources. It was instead going to consultants and to middlemen and to political contributions. It's just awful what they were doing, and nobody was doing anything about it until Elon Musk came along with Donald Trump.
Yep. The leadership genius of Elon Musk, Dennis Neal. Dennis, if folks want to copy the book, Amazon, I'm sure, Barnes & Noble, all the places fine books are sold. And you also have your own podcast and your own ways that people can contact you.
What's bugging me, baby, on Ricochet and Apple and Spotify. And I have an awful lot of fun doing that show. And I think it's so much better and smarter than a lot of the shows I see on cable, especially on MSNBC and CNN, which are, frankly, an embarrassment.
Yeah. Dennis Neal, appreciate you, my friend. The leadership genius of Elon Musk. I have a long form interview available for him. It's on all the podcast platforms out there. So if you go on the podcast platform, the Spotify, the Apple podcast, just type Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, and you will see, scroll down. It's been a couple of months ago that we put that up there, but it's a long form interview with Dennis Neal. And we talked about the book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. And that was during the height of the bromance. And now we're having a little lack of bromance going on. Elon, Donald, I want to hear Peaches and Herb reunited, and it feels so good. Remember the 70s, 80s? It's an old song. All right. Arloa says, yes, I love their friendship and grieve that being severed. It makes us sad, Arloa. Makes us very sad. Elon, Donald, get back together. Friendship, compadres. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the show's about to wrap up. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on all the podcast platforms. Spotify, if you're watching it live, we appreciate you doing that. But go to the podcast platforms, and Arloa's on fire. She says she's enjoying Dennis Neal. You learn to spell Neil, Arloa. No, just kidding. She mispronounced it. Got to put the K in there. Don't forget the podcast platforms. Just look up Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, and that way you can hear the show. And of course, some of you are watching it live, but obviously that doesn't fit into everybody's schedule. But lots of you listen to the podcast, and we appreciate you doing it. And it's an audio version only. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, the whole place. It's out there, and you can listen to it. As a matter of fact, this show right here, that Dennis Neal interview, that Chuck Andrews interview, they'll all go up in the show moments after this program shuts down. Ladies and gentlemen, see the globe? This is a cheap prop we have here because we're a low-budget operation. You ready for this? It's called the Stolen Meme section of the show if you're new. We go all around the intergoogles and we steal memes because we're too cheap and uncreative to create our own. And producer Chad and I are drinking tequila and whiskey. So we're like, oh, we should create some memes together. And then we don't because, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was a drinking sign for those of you listening to the program. Ladies and gentlemen, ready for it? Again, cheap prop, we love you. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. The moment you realize that the next 5 months spelled Jason, and there's the Jason, a little horror flick there. July, August, September, October, November. That's a very negative perspective there, Producer Chad. Very negative. Very negative. We'd like some optimism from Producer Chad. Evidently, Producer Chad's having a bad day. He's negative. Now you've screwed up the next 5 months for me. Why'd you do that for? I was planning on the best 5 months of the year, and now you've screwed that up. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is Jefferson wrote the declaration with a quill, and you texted K. Anybody hate that? The abbreviations, what's up? WYD. My son will sometimes do that to me. WYD. That means what you do it. Can we not type words? Do we not know how to do that anymore? Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. It's a photo of some star-spangled ding-dongs from Hostess. Me, I promise I won't get political at the cookout. Anybody get political at your cookout the other day? Also me, all you commies can suck my star-spangled ding-dongs. Do they make those? Because I'm stocking up. We're stocking up on those. Patriotism at its best. And nothing says God bless America like a star-spangled ding-dong. I think they make a pill for that or a shot. I don't know. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is it's a photo of the cages that Joe Biden kept people in. Insane to all the Democrats critical of Alligator Alcatraz. Below is a photo of the Biden Detention Center in Arizona. It was outdoors in 100-degree plus heat with no beds. Dems are hypocrites. Ladies and gentlemen, say it with me. If the libtard Democrats didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. All of you folks out there complaining about the Alligator Alcatraz. Oh, my God. They got beds. Those little shacks even have air conditioning. Joe Biden put them in cages. That's the truth. And once you libtards know the truth will set you free. Unfortunately, some of you don't want to be set free. You're like a demoniac that wants to keep up with a demon. Round and round. Wow, that got serious. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Who wants free stuff? Everybody raise their hand. Who wants to pay for other people's free stuff? No one raises their hand. Again, modern liberal theory. If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. Let's see, you got a couple more. Around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, look, it's Jasmine Crockett. That ain't her dancing name, my friend. That's her real name. I was not provided with intelligence. That's what she said about Iran, bombing Iran. I was not provided with the intelligence. Jasmine, you're right. We've listened to your talk. We see your mouth open, and it's very true. The jokes write themselves. You were not provided with intelligence. Not a bit of it. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, like teats on a bull, we have milked the meme machine dry. Obnoxious Scott, again, I love got a lot of compliments towards the host today. That makes me want to come back tomorrow. Obnoxious Scott says, outstanding interviews today, Master Lakey. You can, okay, keep Master. I like it. I was going to say Mr. or Sir, but no, Master's good. I like that. You can do that. All right, what else we got? Oh, we're done. I'm thinking, am I missing something on the program? We didn't get to our question of the day. I want you to ponder and stew upon this for tomorrow. This will be one of our questions of the day. Do any of you name your cars? Has anybody ever named your car? Do you have a name for your car, or do you think it's weird to name your car? I want you to ponder that, and because that's going to be our question, one of our questions of the day tomorrow, because there's a survey out there about people who named their cars and what are the most popular car names. And I have called my car names, but I have never named a car. I have had one car that I felt like I should have named it, but I felt the name limited it. It was, as a matter of fact, I sold that car about a year or so ago. I didn't want to do the final repairs on it, and I loved that car. I literally got misty-eyed when it pulled out of the driveway. That hurt. That one hurt. I didn't ever name it though. Sometimes I'd call it my baby. Sometimes I'd call, if we went, if we were being bilingual that day, I'd call her Consuela. And it was always a girl. I don't know why my car was a girl. No, I did call my car Hank one time. We were listening to country music, and I said, "Well, does it get in the car, drive around a Hank?" Is naming your car weird? That's the topic of the day for a question of the day for tomorrow, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Is naming your car weird? All right, don't forget social media feeds out there. I'm about to post a link up from Chuck Andrews about how you can contribute to the Hill Country of Texas, the Kerrville floods. There's a lot of agencies that do well. I like to keep it and donations like this to some of the more local organizations. There's some national organizations. I don't know if Samaritan's Purse is there. It's always good to give to Samaritan's Purse if you're comfortable with that, have a relationship, if they're doing work there. Some of the bigger ones, there's a lot of overhead in those, and I would encourage you to find how you can make the most impact. There's probably some local church communities. If you're a denominational person, you can probably find your local churches there and help the relief effort there. But Chuck Andrews' interview earlier, if you missed it, go back and listen to the show on the podcast or watch the stream again. He's there, has a ranch in near Kerrville. His daughter lost her business in Hunt, Texas. And through the flood and devastation, he was giving us kind of a on-the-scenes reporting. Go back and listen to that. But he sent a link that I'll post up here on social media. And today, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. But today, I'm not even our charity or sponsor, Rivers Promise, Hope for Children. We got a lot of financial needs there, but I'm not even going to push that right now. We're going to launch a new program. We got a sweepstakes going on, all sorts of stuff. Got 30 desks and 30 chairs. I'll get to that later. We have an immediate need in the Hill Country, and I'm going to post that link up. So I'll post it at facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. I'll also put it on the X. And if you'd like to donate to the Hill Country Relief Fund, feel free to do so. But would you do something and pray for the people of Texas as they're still finding the dead? And it's a very, very, very tragic situation. And all deaths, all life is precious. And that's why we're pro-life. All life is precious. And but it's even more precious when you think of the little girls that died in those dormitories. And I don't know if you've seen it. Fox News was showing some photos of inside the dormitories of the water, just like it. The water, people woke up with water rising up under them under bed. Yes, there were some people probably trying to flee, but there were other people that just woke up in their house, as Chuck Andrews said, their cabin, their camping ground, their ranch, their motorhome, their RV, their Winnebago was floating downstream. And that was That was their final resting spot. So say a prayer, especially those that had the little children that died from the Camp Mystic and other places, the kids out there. The most tragic of all of them, but all of them are tragedies. I'll put the link up, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. I'll put that link up here in just a minute. And everybody say your prayers for all the families, especially those that sent their kids off to summer camp and the kid ain't coming home. What a tragedy it is. All right, the link will go up, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey. If you're new to the program, thanks for being a part of it. I am Jimmy Lakey, and I am the Lord of the House of Lakey, Lord Lakey of the House of Lakey, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. Do me a favor. It's amazing how many people are just now finding the Streamcast 6 months in. I'd love for you to spread the word. When you log on tomorrow, share this. I don't know if you can share at the same time, depending on your platform, or look, when we close this up, it's going to populate on the Facebook feed or the Twitter feed, the Rumble feed. Rumble, where have you been at? You've been kind of quiet out there. I want to hear more from Rumble. Share it out there. Tell people to listen and join us tomorrow morning. Until we meet again tomorrow, my name is Jimmy Lakey. Normally at this time, I would be putting out a link to our charity Rivers Promise. But in doing so, I don't want to put out the charity link to Rivers Promise, because if I did so, it would distract from the Hill Country today. And I want to put that link out. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Something happened to the bumper music. Oh, there it is. I got it back. I don't know. I think I double pushed a button or something. Until we meet again tomorrow morning, thank you, producer Chad, for letting me go overtime today. I mean this from the bottom of my heart for all of you paying attention to us out there. Prayers for Texas. God bless Texas. I love you, my friends. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.